Hello and welcome, Tricia here. Today I am hopping along with Altenew to celebrate their April release. And I am going to be working with this Marbled Bloom stamp set, which is a gorgeous floral stamp set. And I'm going to use it to create a bullet journal or weekly planner spread in my Archer and Olive dot grid planner here. So I'm turning to a fresh page in my planner, and I am going to use this stamp set. It does come with coordinating dies. However, since I'm doing this directly in my planner, I won't need those today. I'm sure I will use those on a card in the near future. But this is a multi-layer stamp set. It does not have an outline layer, but it has 4 gorgeous layers to create a really detailed, beautiful floral bloom. There's also a bud and 2 different shapes of leaves in the set as well. So I'm pulling out all of the different layers for the floral. You can see it starts with the most solid and then works its way down to detail layers. And I'm going to use the rose petal set here, I believe it's called. I will link all the inks and products that I use in the description box below. But I am starting with rose quartz, and I am stamping that down with the most solid layer first. And when I work in this journal, I sometimes have to be a little creative. You know, when you're in a bound book, you can see I have that stamping mat under my page, and sometimes you need to double stamp to get good coverage, but I make it work. Plus, this is just my own calendar. I'm not sending this to anybody, so I'm not real fussy about getting it perfect. But the images stamp beautifully. You can see on the left side where I have a lot of pages stacked up, it just stamps beautifully. So I've got all my floral solid images, and now I'm going to throw a couple of buds on here, also in the rose quartz. And I'm building up just some clusters of florals in the corners. Sometimes I need to lift up my book, and I think I kind of messed that one up, so I'm going to retry it here to get a good image down in the corner. Moving on to the leaves, you can see there's 3 layers for each leaf, and then also little stem and sprigs for the buds. And for that, I am starting with Mountain Mist as my base layer. And I'm just filling in around the flowers, creating some foliage, trying to kind of frame out that cluster I have going on. Once I get all my florals in, I'll move on to my second layer. As with all Altenew stamps, the layering guide in the packaging is extremely helpful, especially if you're not using a MISTI and you're doing this with an acrylic block the way I am. It really makes it easy to get everything lined up. So I'm moving on to the next ink color here, which is the Puffy Heart. And I'm adding the second layer. You can start to see these floral images take shape as I get these in here. And I apologize, my video is a little jumpy because I got a new mount for my phone, and every time I inked up my stamps, it was making the camera wobble. So I'm going to have to figure something new out. But I wanted to edit out all of that shakiness, so it's kind of jumping from thing to thing here. But you can see what I'm doing. I'm just working my way around. I've been using the second layer of each of the leaf shapes in the next darker color in that turquoise family. And as you see, I rotate my paper so that I can get right on top of that image and line it up. I use the layering guide as a reference. Same thing goes for the little sprig around that bud. And now I have the second layer complete for all of my florals. So I'm going to work onto the third layer now. And I usually prep my stamps, especially these big stamps with a lot of surface area. I think I need to get my hands on the Altenew eraser, stamp prep or stamp erasers. I don't know what they call them, but those little things that you use to rub on your stamp and it makes it ink up beautifully. I've heard great things, so I think I might have to try that. But for now, I'm just rubbing it on my hand, or you could use a dry cloth. But I am taking that, that next layer of ink, I believe it's called Purple Wine, And you're really starting to see the depth show up in this gorgeous flower. I love they call it marbled blooms because I feel that the shadows, rather than being veiny or feathered in and real delicate, they're big chunks, very freeform. So now I'm working on to the darkest detail in the leaves, which I'm going to use evergreen for. There are 4 colors in this color family, but I'm skipping out to the darkest one to get some contrast. And I will just continue to work my way around and get all of my leaves done, both of the different leaf shapes, so they each have the 4 colors. And I'm rotating my book to make it easier for me to reach all of those. And then final touches with a little dark accent on those buds. For the last layer, the Cosmic Berry is the darkest ink, I believe, in this. I don't know, I might have these wrong. I'm going to link them below, but I think I have the darkest ink is Cosmic Berry. And I am going to put the last layer of the buds on, and then the really deep detail layer of these flowers. And I think when I pulled this stamp up is when I went, whoa, look how cool that is. That really, really sets the depth of the center of that flower. And I just love how that turns out. And that's so pretty. So I realized I had skipped ahead on those buds. I lost track of which layer I was on, and I went too dark with the 3rd layer. So I'm just repeating that last stamp color on the 4th layer for the little buds. So just a second ago, you can see I dropped my stamp and left a big ink smudge in the middle of the page. And that happens to me, I think, every single time I'm in my craft room. Oh, no big deal. I'll come back and figure out a way to camouflage that later on. So I did go through and stamp the centers of my flowers. I used sun-kissed ink and then paper bag for the 2nd layer. And now I am creating the framework for my weekly spread. And I'm just doing this with a a gel pen, I guess, a fast drying gel pen and a ruler. And I typically create, I don't always follow the same format, but this is probably the most common one for me. I typically create 8 columns so that I have 1 column for each day of the week and then another column for a master to-do list for the week. Once I had the outline worked in for that, for my calendar, I wanted to add just a little more detail in the background. So I'm masking off the box I just drew in, and I'm pulling out the Cube Builder stencil. This is an older stencil, but I love this. And this could be used a lot of different ways. I just wanted something subtle, so I'm using really light gray. This is Morning Frost ink, and I'm applying it with an ink blending brush. And just really lightly giving a real organic look. I'm kind of fading it off to one side. I'm not having it be like hard and fast, just kind of fading it out. And in one direction, I did it a little darker than the other just to create a little shadow. You can see those cubes up there. And I did them on an angle up there. I did them a little bit more upright in this bottom corner. But if you haven't used these stencils, you ink them once from one side, and then you flip the stencil over and you line it up and you ink it from the other side, and it creates this really cool 3D look. And that's what I'm doing here. Again, just for some interest. And I always think it's cool to have something geometric alongside the flowers. I think that's a really cool contrast. Just to keep things in 3s, I wanted to add a tiny touch of that up in the upper left corner and kind of tuck it behind that one bloom. And that'll keep your eye moving around the page. So for some reason at this point, I grabbed my ink blending foam instead of my brush, and you can see it had a different color on there. I don't know what I was doing, but for some reason I messed that up. It had like a little bit of beige to it. But it kind of went with the centers of the flowers, and again, since this is just my own personal calendar, I just went with it. It didn't bother me too much. So I decided to hand letter the days of the week. Again, I don't start at the leftmost box because that'll be my to-do list, so I start the next one in, and I had the presence of mind to remember that. However, as I get later in the week, I completely skipped over Friday. I don't know what I was thinking. So here I am writing Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, and realizing, wait a minute. Why didn't I write Friday in there? So, never fear. I'm always able to correct things. I just keep on plugging through. So I decided to sort of cover up all of my writing with some white gel pen and then put washi tape over the top, and that way it wouldn't show through the washi. While I had my white gel pen out, I decided to add some dots to the centers of my flowers just to give them a little brightness and highlight. That gave the white gel pen on top of my lettering a little time to dry. So I found this gray marbled washi tape in my stash, and I am running right over my mistake using a craft knife to make neat edges to line up with my calendar boxes. And I find if you, some people are afraid to do this, I think, with their craft knife because they think they're going to cut through the page. But if you just give like a nice firm pressure, not too crazy, it gives an even cut, and you can even draw around elements on your page. That's what I'm doing here. I'm tracing the edge of that leaf, and then your washi tape looks like it kind of is tucked behind the leaf and the flower in the corner there. It really works out. It's super easy. So, crisis averted. Now I will just go ahead and rewrite my days of the week, and this time take extra care to get them all in the right order. I got it right this time. I wanted to keep the date really simple. I just hand wrote that in a gel pen in the corner, just small and simple, because I didn't want to add too much more fuss up there. My ink smudge from earlier, I was looking around for my sand eraser, and I couldn't find it, so I think I have to get a new one of those. I don't know where that went, but for the time being, I just covered it with some white gel pen. It's not perfect, but at least it's not terribly distracting in the middle, and I'm sure I'll cover it up as my week goes on with either a sticker or some writing or ink or something. So to finish my page, I am just writing March because it is March while I'm filming this. And I'm just using my Tombow brush pen for that in black. Making nice bold letters down in the corner. And then I will add a shadow with a gray Tombow pen just on each side of the letter. Just a quick swipe. It really makes a big difference to put a little shadow in there. Your letters kind of pop off the page a little bit. And I thought the gray tied in with the gray cubes that we did in the background, and it really ends up looking very nice. Final touch is a little white gel pen on those letters to add some highlights. And that'll finish off my page. So I really loved using these gorgeous flowers in a different way. Of course, I have a million ideas for how I'm going to use them on cards, but this was a fun project to put them in my planner, and then I will see them all week long as I go about my days and add to my schedule. Well, I hope you enjoyed this project and watching my planner page come together with this beautiful new stamp set. Be sure to subscribe and like this video if you enjoyed it, and also to check out all the other stops on the video hop for this release. There's tons of inspiration out there. Thank you again for stopping by today, and hope to see you again real soon.